Hi, reading room. How are you? I didn't update that. That's okay. I say maybe I have it there, but I do not. We are here, though, on day 86. I'm so happy to be here. We're about a quarter of the way through our book, The Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. We're learning about his sister Lola. Whew! That mom, huh? Yikes. It was like the stupidest thing I ever did. I was miserable and so bored, but of course I wouldn't admit it. I had run away, so I was happy. Happy! Aldo had neglected to mention all those times he told me to live with him that his father hated him like I hated my mother. Aldo Sr. had been in World War II, and he'd never forgiven the Japs for all the friends he had lost. My dad's so full of shit, Aldo said. He never left Fort Dix. I don't think his father said 4 words to me the whole time I lived with him. He was one mean viejito, and even had a padlock around the refrigerator. Stay the hell out of it, he told me. We couldn't even get ice cubes out. Aldo and his dad lived in one of the cheapest little bungalows, and me and Aldo slept in a room where his father kept the cat litter for his 2 cats, and at night we would move it out into the hallway, but he always woke up before us and put it back in the room. I told you to leave my crap alone. Which was funny when you think about it, but it wasn't funny then. I got a job selling French fries on the boardwalk, and between the hot oil and the cat piss, I couldn't smell anything else. On my days off, I would drink with Aldo or would sit in the sand dressed in all black and try to write in my journal, which I was sure would form the foundation for a utopian society after we blew ourselves into radioactive kibble. Sometimes other boys would walk up to me and would throw lines at me like, "Who fucking died? What's with your hair?" They would sit down next to me in the sand. "You a good-looking girl, you should be in a bikini. Why, so you can rape me? Why, so you can rape me? Jesus Christ," one of them said, jumping up to his feet. "What the hell is wrong with you?" To this day, I don't know how I lasted. At the beginning of October, I was laid off from the French Fry Palace. By then, most of the boardwalk was closed up, and I had nothing to do except hang out at the public library, which was even smaller than my high school one. Aldo had moved on to working with his dad in his garage, which only made them more pissed at each other, and by extension, more pissed off at me. When they got home, they would drink Schlitz and complain about the Phillies. I guess I should count myself lucky that they didn't just decide to bury the hatchet and gangbang me. I stayed out as much as I could and waited for the feelings to come back to me to tell me what I should do next. But I was bone dry, bereft, no visions whatsoever. I started to think that maybe it was like in the books. As soon as I lost my virginity, I lost my power. I got really mad at Aldo after that. "You're a drunk," I told him, "and an idiot." "So what?" he shot back. "Your pussy smells." "Then stay out of it." "I will." But of course I was happy. Happy. I kept waiting to run into my family posting up flyers of me on the boardwalk. My mom, the tallest, blackest, chestiest thing in sight. Oscar looking like the brown blob, my tia Rebelka, maybe even my tio if they could get him off the heroin long enough. But the closest I came to any of that was some flyers someone had put up for a cat they lost. That's white people for you. They lose a cat and it's all points bulletin. But we Dominicans, we lose a daughter and we might not even cancel our appointment at the salon. By November, I was so finished. I would sit there with Aldo and his putrid father, and the old shows would come on the TV, the ones me and my brother used to watch when we were kids. Three's Company, What's Happening, The Jeffersons, and my disappointment would grind against some organ that was very soft and tender. It was starting to get cold too, and wind just walked right into the bungalow and got under your blankets or jumped in the shower with you. It was awful. I kept having these stupid visions of my brother trying to cook for himself. Don't ask me why. I was the one who cooked for us. The only thing Oscar knew how to make was grilled cheese. I imagined him thin as a reed, wandering around the kitchen, opening cabinets forlornly. I haven't started dreaming about my mother. Except in the dreams, she was a little girl, and I mean really little. I could hold her in the palm of my hand, and she was always trying to say something. I would put her right up to my ear, and I still couldn't hear her. I always hated obvious dreams like that. I still do. And then Aldo decided to be cute. I knew he was getting unhappy with us, but I didn't know exactly how bad it was until one night he had his friends over. His father had gone to Atlantic City, and they were all drinking and smoking and telling dumb jokes, and suddenly Aldo says, "Do you know what Pontiac stands for? Poor old nigger thinks it's a Cadillac." But who was he looking at when he told his punchline? He was looking straight at me. That night he wanted me, but I pushed his hand away. "Don't touch me." "Don't get sore," he said, putting my hand on his cock. "It wasn't nothing." And then he laughed. So what did I do a couple days later? A really dumb thing. I called home. The first time no one answered. The second time it was Oscar. "The De Leon residence. How may I direct your call?" That was my brother for you. This is why everybody in the world hated his guts. It's me, dumbass. "Lola." He was so quiet, and then I realized he was crying. "Where are you?" "You don't want to know." I switched ears, trying to keep my voice casual. "How is everybody?" "Lola, Mommy's going to kill you." "Dumbass, could you keep your voice down? Mommy isn't home, is she?" "She's working." "What a surprise," I said. "Mommy working." On the last minute of the last hour of the last day, my mother would be at work. She would be at work when the missiles were in the air. I guess I must have missed him real bad, or I just wanted to see somebody who knew anything about me, or the cat piss had damaged my common sense because I gave him the address of a coffee shop on the boardwalk and told him to bring some of my clothes and some of my books. "Bring me money, too." He paused. "I don't know where Mommy keeps it." "You know, mister, just bring it." "How much?" he asked timidly. "All of it." "That's a lot of money, Lola." "Just bring me the money, Oscar." Okay. He inhaled deeply. Will you at least tell me if you're okay or not?" "I'm okay," I said, and that was the only point in the conversation where I almost cried. I kept quiet until I could speak again, and then I asked him how he was going to get down here without our mother finding out. "You know me," he said weakly. "I might be a dork, but I'm a resourceful dork." I should have known not to trust anybody whose favorite books as a child were Encyclopedia Brown, but I wasn't really thinking. I was so looking forward to seeing him. By then I had this plan. I was going to convince my brother to run away with me. My plan was that we would go to Dublin. I had met a bunch of Irish guys on the boardwalk, and they had sold me on their country. I would become a backup singer for U2, and both Bono and the drummer would fall in love with me, and Oscar could become the Dominican James Joyce. I really believed it would happen. That's how deluded I was by then. The next day I walked into the coffee shop looking brand new, and he was there, the bag. "Oscar," I said, laughing. "You're so fat." "I know," he said, ashamed. "I was worried about you." We embraced for like an hour, and then he started crying. "Lola, I'm sorry." "It's okay," I said, and that's when I looked up and saw my mother and me Tia Rebelka and me Tia walk into the shop. "Oscar!" I screamed, but it was too late. My mother already had me in her hands. She looked so thin and worn, almost like a hag, but she was holding on to me like I was her last nickel, and underneath her red wig, her green eyes were furious. I noted absently that she had dressed up for the occasion. That was typical. "Muchacha del Diablo," she shrieked. I managed to hand her out of the coffee shop. to haul her out of the coffee shop. And when she pulled back her hand to smack me, I broke free and ran for it. Behind me, I could feel her sprawling, hitting the curb hard with a crack, but I wasn't looking back. No, I was running. In elementary school, whenever we had field day, I was always the fastest girl in my grade. Took home all the ribbons. They said it wasn't fair because I was so big, but I didn't care. I could even have beat the boys if I'd wanted to. So there was no way my sick mother, my messed up Tio, and my fat brother were going to catch me. I was going to run as fast as my long legs could carry me. I was going to run down the boardwalk past Aldo's miserable house, out of Wildwood, out of New Jersey, and I wasn't going to stop. I was going to fly. Anyway, that's how it should have worked out. But I looked back, I couldn't help it. It's not like I didn't know my Bible, all that pillars of salt stuff. But when you're someone's daughter that she raised by herself with no help from nobody, habits die hard. I just wanted to make sure my mom hadn't broken her arm or cracked open her skull. I mean, really, who the hell wants to kill her own mother by accident? That's the only reason I glanced back. She sprawled on the ground. Her wig had fallen out of reach. Her poor bald head out in the day like something private and shameful, and she was bawling like a lost calf. Eha, eha. And there I was, wanting to run off into my future. It was right then when I needed the feeling to guide me, but it wasn't anywhere in sight, only me. In the end, I didn't have the ovaries. She was on the ground, bald as a baby, crying, probably a month away from dying, and there I was, her one and only daughter, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I walked back, and when I reached down to help her, she clamped onto me with both hands. That was when I realized she hadn't been crying at all. She'd been faking. Her smile was like a lion's. Ye tango, she said, jumping triumphantly to her feet. Te tango. Ya te tango. I have you, she said. I think that's what I have you. Tango is have you. Te tango, I have you. And that is how I ended up in Santo Domingo. I guess my mother thought it would be harder for me to run away from an island where I knew no one, and in a way she was right. I'm into my 6th month here, and these days I'm just trying to be philosophical about the whole thing. I wasn't like that at first, but in the end I had to let it go. It was like the fight between the egg and the rock. My abuela said, no winning. I'm actually going to school, not that it's going to count when I return to Patterson, but it keeps me busy and out of mischief and around people my own age. You don't need to be around us viejos all day, abuela says. I have mixed feelings about the school. For one thing, it's improved my Spanish a lot. The Blank Academy is a private school, a Carol Morgan wannabe filled with people my tío Carlos Moya calls los hijos de mami y papi. And then there's me. If you think it was tough being a goth in Patterson, try being Dominican York in one of those private schools back in Dominican Republic. You will never meet bitchier girls in your whole life. They whisper about me to death. Someone else would have a nervous breakdown, but after Wildwood, I'm not so brittle. I don't let it get to me. And the irony of all ironies, I'm on our school's track team. I joined because my friend Rocio, the scholarship girl from Los Mina, told me I could win a spot on the team on the length of my legs alone. Those are the pins of the winner. She prophesied. Well, she must have known something. I didn't, because I'm now our school's top runner in the 400 meters and under. That I have talent at this simple thing never ceases to amaze me. Karen would pass out if she could see me running sprints out behind my school while Coach Cortez screams at us, first in Spanish and then in Catalan. Breathe, breathe, breathe. I'm pretty sure that's how you say that. I've got like no fat left on me, and musculature of my legs impresses everyone, even me. I can't wear shorts anymore without causing traffic jams. And the other day when my abuela locked us out of the house, she turned to me in frustration and said, "Hija, just kick the door open." That pushed a laugh out of both of us. So much has changed these last months in my head, my heart. Rocio has me dressing up like a real Dominican girl. She's the one who fixed my hair and who helps me with my makeup. And sometimes when I see myself in mirrors, I don't even know who I am anymore. Not that I'm unhappy or anything. Even if I found a hot air balloon that would whisk me straight to U2's house, I'm not sure I would take it. I'm still not talking to my trader brother, though. The truth is, I'm even thinking of staying one more year. Abuela doesn't want me to ever leave. "I'll miss you," she says so simply it can't be anything but true. And my mom has told me I can stay if I want to, but that I would be welcome at home too. Tia Rebelka tells me she's hanging tough, my mother, that she's back to 2 jobs. They send me a picture of the whole family, and Abuela frames it, and I can't look at them without misting up. My mother's not wearing her fakies in it. She looks so thin, I don't even recognize her. "Just know that I would die for you," she told me the last time we talked, and before I could say anything, she hung up. But that's not what I wanted to tell you. It's about that crazy feeling that started this whole mess. The bruja feeling that comes singing out of my bones, that takes hold of me the way blood seizes cotton. The feeling that tells me that everything in my life is about to change. It's coming back. Just the other day, I woke up from all these dreams and it was there, pulsing inside of me. I imagine this is what it feels like to have a child in you. At first I was scared. I thought it was telling me to run away again. But every time I looked around our house, every time I saw my abuela, the feeling got stronger. So I knew this was something different. I was dating a boy by then, a sweet Moreno by the name of Max Sanchez, whom I had met in Los Mina while visiting Rocio. He's short, but his smile and snappy dressing make up for a lot. Because I'm from Nueva Yol, he talks about how rich he's going to become, and I try to explain to him that I don't care about that, but he looks at me like I'm crazy. "I'm going to get a white Mercedes-Benz," he says, "2 veras." But it's a job he has that I love best that got me and him started. In Santo Domingo, 2 or 3 theaters often share the same set of reels for a movie. So when the first theater finishes with the first reel, they put it in Max's hands, and he rides his motorcycle like crazy to make it to the second theater, and then he drives back, waits, picks up the second reel, and so on. If he's held up or gets into an accident, the first reel will end up there. The first reel will end, and there will be no second reel, and the people in the audience will throw bottles. So far, he's been blessed, he tells me, and kisses his San Miguel medal. Because of me, he brags, one movie becomes 3. I'm the man who puts together the pictures. Max is not from La Clase Alta, as my abuela would describe it, and if any of the stuck-up bitches in school saw us, they would about die. But I'm fond of him. He holds open doors. He calls me his Morena. When he's feeling brave, he touches my arm gently and then pulls back. Anyway, I thought maybe the feeling was about Max, and so one day I let him take us to one of the love motels. He was so excited he almost fell off the bed, and the first thing he wanted was to look at my ass. I never knew my big ass could be such a star attention, but he kissed it 4 or 5 times, gave me goosebumps with his breath, and pronounced it a tesoro. When we were done and he was in the bathroom washing himself, I stood in front of the mirror naked and looked at my cuello for the first time. "A tesoro," I repeated, "a treasure." "Well," Rocio asked at school, and I nodded once quickly, and she grabbed me and laughed, and all the girls I hated turned to look But what could they do? Happiness, when it comes, is stronger than all the jerks in Santo Domingo combined. But I was still confused because the feeling, it just kept getting stronger and stronger. Wouldn't let me sleep, wouldn't give me any peace. I started losing races, which was something I never did. You ain't so great. You are a gringa, the girls on the other teams hissed at me, and I could only hang my head. Coach Cortez was so unhappy, he just locked himself in his car and wouldn't say anything to any of us. The whole thing was driving me crazy, and then one night I came home from being out with Max. He had taken me for a walk along Malecon. He never had money for anything else, and we had watched the bats zigzagging over the palms, and an old ship had into the distance. He talked quietly about moving to the U.S. while I stretched my hamstrings. My abuela was waiting for me at the living room table. Even though she still wears black to mourn the husband she lost when she was young, she's one of the most handsome women I've ever known. We have the same jagged lightning bolt part, and for the first time I saw her at the airport. I didn't want to admit it, but I knew that things were going to be okay between us. She stood like she was her own best thing, and when she saw me, she said, "Hija, I have waited for you since the day you left." And then she hugged me and kissed me and said, "I'm your abuela, but you can call me La Inca." Standing over her that night, her part like a crack in her hair, I felt a surge of tenderness. I put my arms around her, and that was when I noticed that she was looking at photos. Old photos, the kind I'd never seen in my house. Photos of my mother when she was young and of other people. I picked one up. Mommy was standing in front of a Chinese restaurant. Even with the apron on, she looked potent, like someone who was going to be someone. She was very guapa, I said casually. Abuela snorted. Guapa soy yo. Your mother was a diosa, but so cabeza dura. When she was your age, we never got along. I didn't know that, I said. She was cabeza dura, and I was exigente. But it all turned out for the best, she sighed. We have you and your brother, and that's more than anyone could have hoped for, given what came before. She plucked out one photo. This is my mother's father. She offered me the photo. He was my cousin, and she was about to say something else and then stopped. And that's when it hit with the force of a hurricane. The feeling, I stood up, and the way my mother always wanted me to stand up. My abuela was sitting there forlorn, trying to cobble together the right words, and I could not move or breathe. I felt like I always did at the last seconds of a race when I was sure I was going to explode. She was about to say something, and I was waiting for whatever she was going to tell me. I was waiting to begin. We got through chapter 2 in 2 days. We're on chapter 3. The 3 heartbreaks of Belicia Cabral. Chapter 3. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. You're in the reading room, and we are reading The Wondrous Life of Oscar Wow. I say Oscar Wow. Thanks for joining me here in the reading room. I am the teacher, and this is Healthy Mind, Body, Spirit Classroom.